they're just not pulling it out. Woods out here.
Playoffs.
Y'all do what you want.
Towels on the seats for people. That's what's good. Or just shove it.
You did put pictures.
You don't say every corner.
It's the stars. It's optional.
It's optional.
These,
It'll miss you. It's a lot of money.
But you know the game too starts.
I mean, it gives it power for 2 years.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. They have to verticalize. We got them all
You
by.
don't even want
No,
to.
it's this, and I'll say, oh, I don't know how to.
Are you taking my chair?
No, you left
A lot of
it.
people did.
Hey, hey, you're socializing every day.
Website.
No, he took my chair.
Just don't let the senior citizens have it.
Page before you.
I sell it to you for $5.
Quickly before.
Yeah.
Put it on my tab.
Come on, and see if you like this plant.
Oh, still needed water?
Hey, guys, I just wanna make sure, has everybody turned off their phones to vibrate?
No.
Who
It's a
put
press
in your ass?
conference.
Just for that, I'm cutting it on.
I'm turning it on and down.
It was off, but now I'm cutting it on.
It's another thing Larry Rodriguez did to me. Every single press conference, he would call me in the middle of it. He'd be 2 cameras down.
I believe it.
It's probably though for the people who want to use it. They don't
It's a call.
want ESPN type stuff. They want.
No.
She kept on calling me, but I missed the call, and it's too late. And I bet that's special clothes for it. Yep. You can't call it 7:29.
Do you need more space?
It starts at 7:30.
No.
That's probably harder for you to do. Because that's easy for me to do. I am not.
Right.
Is your head okay on your tripod, Jeff?
No.
You see what I'm
You
saying?
didn't know a thing about the tournament either.
Moves.
Yeah, you need to have them tighten it, or if not, they gotta replace it.
I need to get these tight.
He's gonna try to retire again. See if it floats this time.
Listen, they won't let it happen. And also, like, not only will they not let me quit, they'll still call me at all hours of the day. It's like, no, we need you to work more than hours.
Probably didn't know off the top of their head without.
Change your phone number.
Your regular shift.
Or just quit, the heck with it.
One of the Texas State Network folks, she said that this morning. She's like, you just put your phone on Do Not Disturb. It works great. It's so good.
Yeah.
You know what's even better? Airplane mode.
You ain't getting nothing on that one.
Y'all, I'm sorry, we're running a little bit behind. The chief is actually on the phone with the FBI for a moment, and then he'll come in and give his statement.
Okay.
Will you give us a 2-minute warning?
2-minute warning, I can try to do that.
Great.
Wow.
2 minutes?
Oh, I made you the diagram.
Did you?
Yeah, check it out.
Check this out.
The one in the words written in blue are the most important.
I don't see any stick
Vending
figures.
machine, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I didn't see any stick figures there, dude.
This podium,
One more episode.
Mike, go back to the wall box.
Okay.
And then the power strips, because we need power strips because for our boxes here, you know, like our live
You
reads.
see they're all run all
Usually
over the
plug
place.
them in so that everyone's got power.
Okay, fair enough.
But we have power strips here in the back. This is just, it doesn't have to be curved, but that's where all the folks like saying that.
Okay.
We all plug in the wall box to get the audio from the mic.
Okay.
And then we have 2 cameras back here. Focused on the
Yeah.
like
Kind of
this.
bend.
Gotcha.
And then you have the hairline in the back, just hitting the back of his head, the shoulders, make some pop from the background.
Okay.
Then you have a couple side lights to light whatever's in the center.
Okay.
In this case,
Then we're in vending machine free.
Back right in the corner. Okay, back corner.
Back right corner.
But yeah, and then like, you know, each 10 feet between the
Between
The
podium
podium
and the backdrop. Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
No problem. Here, let me sign this.
All you have to do, Sarge, is just get some kids from high school who are good at doing murals.
We're a lot better at all this stuff than
No,
we are.
of course, and,
Right.
and especially they do murals with graffiti and all that, you'll be perfect for it.
Y'all excuse me.
Oh, okay.
What do you say?
Excuse me, he'll be back.
Just new one.
Do you need batteries for your hearing aid today, Scary?
This internal battery lasts 3 hours.
3? That gets you to
You
the.
know what, that's great. I plug in any chance I get.
Oh, I didn't even know if you had to break it. We just got these.
Same.
I hate these bags.
I mean,
Bags
Steve
suck.
Stewart had them redesigned it. That's completely redesigned. I just didn't take the time to do it right.
I hate how this bag is.
Well, that's why he had to redesign it. Mine's likely different from yours. What don't you like about it?
Well, I don't like that I don't have an L connection for
Oh.
my power.
Oh, no, I don't know that
I
one.
also don't like the fact that it's so hard to get to if you just plug in an HDMI. You can basically take it out of the case. And just janky.
They took all our old bags away. I think it was like that one and gave us all these new ones. I mean, I thought he did a lot of different, well, let's see. One of the things he said is that it didn't have much padding, so I think we got all padding in it now. I don't know.
What happened? Your Stacy wants to live stream it?
I mean, mine's different from everybody else's. Mine is CJ's. Because ours
Flower
mount
Mound's
car.
live streaming it.
So theirs pop right in there. Mine takes a little more work.
That's
Not
the one
much,
there.
but.
We won't have these boxes much longer.
Huh? Why?
It'll just be a card. It's like a camera.
I hope so. Oh, I'm gone by then. A lot of it rides on, what is the name of that place, Vancouver, Washington. Where that company's
Oh,
based.
yeah.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah.
Scary,
They got down to
go there and steal the water.
Come on in, chief.
Not me.
There's a bottle of water right there.
She's talking about
Kevin wanted it, so might as well take it.
He said he's gonna try.
No. He's invested in the company I'm invested in, the only problem is I'm in pretty deep. It's down right now, but it's coming back.
And they're based in
Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, Canada, Vancouver, Washington.
No, I used to like right across the river from Portland.
Right across the river from, is that what you said, Portland?
Where you going?
Perfect.
Sorry.
I'm not from that area, but like I used to work in the station.
Oh,
before I came
I'm
here.
ready to open the door.
Sure is pretty. We went up there way back when the Mavericks were in the, Lakers. When, no, I'm sorry, obviously it was Portland. I keep thinking Lakers, cause this guy went on to play for the Lakers for a long time, but we went out to do his, a feature in his house between the 2 playoff games. I can't think of his name, but, oh my God, the view he had from his house overlooking this canyon was the most beautiful view I've ever seen.
Oh, I've got it. It's my, this is the view from my apartment. Right on the riverfront, view of Mount Hood. And it costs.
Let's see.
Your way?
I've turned on.
Wait, Mount Hood?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Shasta's in the middle of California.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Mount St. Helens, like that, on a clear day, you can see Mount St. Helens up in Washington from Portland. Mount Hood is the closest one. And then there's a couple others like just to the south of Mount Hood that aren't as, they're still like 10,000 or plus, but they're not as low. And like, yeah, it's sunny out, you can see it. It's called like a 5-minute day where you can see the all 5 mountains.
Yeah,
It depends on how many cards you're
the art director of Mavericks,
Tina?
Martina.
Oh.
and I drove up to Mount St. Helens. It was only about 4 years after it happened.
Hello?
That's pretty amazing.
Right.
Because it's now 7:40.
Yeah, he's on the phone.
So.
Yeah, if it.
It could've been
that-
over.
yeah, you ask him.
There, for the 25th anniversary, that is when I lived up there.
If I was in a
And,
bad mood.
I mean.
They did a big,
I
like
can- I can put it up.
a big media event. And we even got a little keepsake, like a little block of wood from trees that were harvested afterwards.
It was polite, don't, you know, but that's not what we want.
Yeah, it looked pretty,
I know what
bad.
Ken would like to say.
You damn right.
Gigantic
Yeah,
blood
we
mold.
had a deal, what I wanna say. You're welcome.
Do you have to call it, or did you?
I called with my channel busy. Means they were using it for something else, like, some satellite views. If it doesn't connect, then I do have to call. But it should be my own personal channel.
Well, you guys for a sign channel?
2 minutes? Okay, thanks.
Oh, you said 2 minutes, otherwise we forget it. Momentarily is not 2 minutes.
Oh, that one was hilarious. I laughed at that, but I think I was in the middle of cooking, and I forgot to call you. I take you back. I just looked at my phone, I'm like, what is this?
What did you say?
So inappropriate.
What did you say?
I can't talk about it right now.
No, that was that too. Because, no,
It's a meme.
I showed you the one my son, my dog posted a picture with the guy from NIH, the head, Collins, and he's like giant and she's petite. And my son always sent as a response, but a thing about dwarfism. And wrong, and you know what my daughter said?
I'll take it since you gave me classes.
No, but it was like the perfect cut down, you know?
Are your daughter and son the same height?
No, my son's taller.
Oh, okay.
He's
I can't
average.
see anything there.
He's average.
Slow. Okay.
It's one thing, like,
I want two.
Right. Good morning, everybody. My name's Chief Andy Cancel with the Flower Mound Police Department. It's been a long night for all of us, and I'm going to read a statement, and after that statement, I'm going to turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Jason Rochelle, for a few questions. So first, I'd like to thank all of our citizens and our friends and all those that were praying for us through the night, our local law enforcement partners as well. And with patience and professionalism, we averted a great tragedy tonight. A Flower Mound man surrendered peacefully at 5:32 a.m. this morning after shooting and injuring 3 Flower Mound police officers during a 10-hour standoff. Officers originally responded to a 911 call at 7:04 p.m. On Wednesday from the suspect's wife, who had left the residence and called from a neighbor's home to report her husband's suicidal threats. Upon arrival to the 2900 block of Tremaine Drive, officers attempted to make contact with the 60-year-old male suspect, who was the sole occupant of the home at that time. and while officers were attempting a welfare check on the subject, at approximately 8:05 p.m., the suspect fired on them from inside the home, striking 3 Flower Mound police officers. Officers did return fire before retreating to the perimeter. The first officer's ballistic shield was struck by a bullet, shattering the ballistic glass and causing injury, and this officer, who has been with the department for 4 years, was transported to Medical Center of Louisville and released Wednesday night. The second officer was struck by bullet fragments in the neck, face, and shoulder areas, resulting in non-life-threatening injuries. This officer, who has been with the department for 14 years, was transported to Medical City Denton and released Wednesday night. A third officer, a 13-year veteran, was shot in the chest. His ballistic plate carrier absorbed the impact of the bullet, leaving him uninjured. He was later transported to Medical City Louisville for precautionary measures and released. So we're very blessed and we're very thankful that the injuries to the officers were not more severe. We count our blessings for that, and certainly for your continued support from the public. Over the next several hours, there was a standoff with the Flower Mound police and SWAT officers, along with Louisville SWAT team members, utilizing drones to monitor the scene and tear gas to encourage the suspect to evacuate the residents. A robot was deployed as well to attempt to gain the premises to check on the subject. At approximately 2:30 a.m., the suspect again began firing several rounds at the robot through the front door way of the residence. Neighbors were evacuated from all nearby homes by armored vehicle and taken off-site to a safe location. So after several hours of deployment, the Flower Mound and Louisville Police Department SWAT team members were relieved by an FBI SWAT team. FBI SWAT breached the residence and fired multiple tear gas volleys into the residence at 5:32 a.m. Eventually, the suspect did exit the residence and surrendered peacefully and was taken into custody by FBI SWAT officers and then turned over to the Flower Mound Police Department personnel. The suspect was treated on scene by the Flower Mound Fire Department medics and transported to the Flower Mound Presbyterian Hospital due to the deployment of the tear gas. The subject was not struck by any exchange of gunfire with the officers. Upon release from the hospital, he will be transported to the Flower Mound jail and face charges. The investigation is still ongoing. We will release the identity of suspect once he's been booked in, and we can legally do so. I just want to express how very proud of our team that I am as the chief and how they responded. They responded with patience and professionalism. And they took care of one another in this situation, a very critical and hazardous type situation that we were able to resolve without critical injury to any person. I would also like to thank all the agencies who provided assistance tonight, including Louisville and Highland Village, Denton County, Coppell, as well as the Texas Rangers, who will be investigating the officer-involved shooting, and our federal partners from the FBI, Dallas. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our PIO, Sergeant Jason Rochelle.
Hey, good morning. I'll try to answer any questions that you guys have right now.
You mentioned last night that y'all had been at this house before for previous calls and that y'all found guns and they were confiscated and then they were returned. Do you have any more information about the nature of why they were returned? We're not even sure on what the law is when they're confiscated for a call like this.
I don't have the specifics for that. I do know that that stemmed from a call back in 2017 where those guns were surrendered to us, and they were subsequently returned to him in April of 2019. That's really all the information I have on it at this time.
What can you say about the gear that these officers were wearing? It's really incredible that they walked away with minor injuries. They're all doing okay. That's really amazing.
The great thing about these officers and the way they responded and the tactics that they used, they're all SWAT trained. So they utilized a ballistic shield. Each of them were wearing their armor plating, which is rated for rifle rounds. And that is really what allowed them to basically escape with minor injuries.
Can you detail how the suspect surrendered And also, when he fired upon the officers, how close were the officers? Had they approached the home? Was it from afar? Were they trying to get in?
I'll speak to the gunfire exchange first. At this time, we don't know exactly where he was inside the residence when he fired upon our officers. We just know that it was a large number of rounds that came their way that they took. As for him surrendering, after the FBI initiated the tear gas inside the residence, he came out, hands up, and basically followed their commands and was taken into custody without incident.
You said y'all used a robot. What does the robot just provide a visual? It's able to get inside the house or near the house. How's the robot used?
Yes, sir. That's what it's used for by our tactical teams. They send that robot in an effort to see the inside of the residence and kind of figure out where the suspect is at and what he's doing. At that point, we didn't really know what condition the suspect was in. So we were trying to get that intel, and that's the reason why we sent in the robot.
During the conversations with the crisis negotiators, was he communicating back? Did he give any reason, or even did his wife give any indication what prompted this whole episode?
No, not at this time. We don't have any information on that. There was very little communication with our crisis negotiating team. He did exit the residence a few times throughout the night and yell some things at the officers that were on the perimeter. But so far as true engagement between the crisis negotiation team and the suspect, he didn't really allow us that.
Possible charges he'll be facing?
We don't know for sure at this time. We have an idea, but until he's booked into the jail, we'll withhold that, but we will release that once he's booked into the jail. Yes, sir.
Have you said his age?
He's 60 years old.
Did the FBI and/or the ATF have an active case on him, and is that why the FBI was involved fairly early in this? Or?
Not to my knowledge. The FBI was just there to support our department, and that's something that they do throughout the Metroplex, and we were definitely appreciative of them coming out and showing support for us.
When he was taken into custody, did he say anything to the officers, or was he just compliant?
Not to my knowledge, ma'am. I wasn't out on the scene, so I don't know for sure, but not to my knowledge.
With a situation like this, where this subject has had a similar call like this before, is there any kind of monitoring or even follow-up with this family or this home to make sure that situations don't get out of control like this, since there is that past history?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. From the initial call, we had a detective assigned to the case, and she spent months following up with that family to try and get them the help that they needed to keep the problems from escalating. And we've continued to be in contact with them and tried to provide them with the best assistance that we could. Unfortunately, it did end up how it did today.
Will he be allowed to keep his guns again? Or what's the standard procedure when something like this happens?
That's not something I can comment on right now.
But you do have different protocols when mental issues might be involved. And at what point did you just adhere to following those protocols?
In regards to?
Well, I mean, I guess the wife told you fairly early on what you were dealing with, right? So do you have a separate set of protocols to deal with a situation like that?
Just basic tactics. I mean, obviously we knew that weapons were in play, which is the reason why we had SWAT-trained officers going up to try and contact him. And that's the reason why we set a perimeter to make sure that our residents were safe at the same time, because we knew that weapons were in play. So that's the reason why we utilized the tactics that we did, and we did our absolute best to keep our residents safe.
What kind of gun did he use, and how many shots were fired at police?
I don't have that information at this time.
Okay.
Is that all?
I think so.
All right. Thank y'all very much for helping us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Will there be any further updates?
Yes, sir. As we go throughout the day, we're just trying to make sure we handle this process and this investigation the correct way. As we're able to release information, we will continue to do so. We'll utilize our social media, and then we also have y'all's contact information. We'll be pushing that out to y'all also.
Are the neighbors allowed back in their homes now?
I think so. I'm not sure. I don't want to comment on that yet. That was something I was going to check on right after the press conference.
All right, thank you so
The
much.
flashbangs and tear gas or just tear gas?
All I know right now is tear gas.
Appreciate it.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you.